Hello and welcome to the Political Sphere, the show focusing on the biggest stories in politics in the last week. I'm Lawrence Jeffcoat and here are the big stories from the last week. And firstly, in US news, on Wednesday, US President Donald Trump addressed the nation from the Oval Office about the shutdown and funding for his border wall. The president addressed the issues surrounding the border and still requested the funding of $5.6 billion for a steel barrier on the US-Mexico border. The president said the government is only shut down because Democrats will not fund border security. Trump was to meet with congressional leaders to find a solution, a meeting which he would later announce on Twitter to be a total waste of time. In the Democrat response to Trump's Oval Office speech by Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, they accused Trump of using fear during the shutdown and holding critical services and the American people hostage. Later in the week, we had the threat of a state of emergency to gain wall funding, but as of this moment, no action towards an emergency has been formally taken. As always, the full videos of the original speeches can be seen in the description below. And continuing with US news, a report by the Rhodium Group found that after 3 years of declining CO2 figures, last year's emissions rose by an estimated 3.4%. The Rhodium Group has also pulled these figures from the US Energy Information Administration in conjunction with other data, making their reported data estimates. According to Rhodium Group, US emissions peaked in 2007 at 6 billion tonnes, but since 2016, the decline of emissions has slowed. I have linked the webpage from Rhodium below where you can see all of the data from the report summarised. And now to Australian news, where this week Liberal Democrat Senator David Leyonhjelm announced he would resign from federal politics. Mr Leyonhjelm stated he would contest the next New South Wales state election for an upper house seat. Senator Leyonhjelm has recently been involved in an ongoing dispute with Green Senator Sarah Hanson-Young over comments which led to a defamation suit by Senator Hanson-Young for comments which accused her of making the claim all men are rapists. Mr Leyonhjelm told Sky News the move to state politics was to tackle nanny state issues such as lockout laws and the legalisation of cannabis. And continuing with Australian news, the past week in Australian news was also filled with news about the Queensland Senator Fraser Anning attending the far-right protest in St Kilda. News updates informed the public that Mr Anning had, according to the ABC, charged $2,500 to taxpayers to fund his trip to St Kilda. The protest in St Kilda included a confrontation between far-right protesters and counter-protesters. Footage has shown visible Nazi salutes occurring at the protest. Mr Anning told news sources such as 9 News he is a supporter of the Jewish community and was there to protest violence by African gangs. Mr Anning later in the week also registered his own political party. And lastly, in international news, where the UK has been preparing for a no-deal exit from the EU, with Parliament passing a vote which would prevent the government from leaving without a deal. This essentially means Theresa May's proposal does not have to be passed and can be rejected, forcing Miss May to have a plan B, as Miss May would now need parliamentary approval for a no-deal exit. Without this vote previously rejecting a deal proposed by Miss May could cause a no-deal exit, which would disrupt supply chains and essentially be an abrupt exit from the EU. But the situation is very complex and more nuanced than how I'm breaking it down and giving a very short summary, so I'd recommend seeing some of the links below for more information. To see more about these stories, check the description below. Be sure to like the video and comment what you thought about the past week in the political sphere. Check the description for other big political stories which might gauge your interest, and stick around and be sure to tune in next week.